The rancher was broke. Dead broke. And when he won an infertile bull in a poker game, everyone laughed. Said it was just another loss wearing horns. But what that bull did next shocked the whole town and gave a lonely man a second shot at life. Eli Carver lived on land that had been in his family for 3 generations. What was once a proud ranch was now dry and empty. The fields were dead. The barn was falling apart. He had sold his last cow 6 months ago. The only sounds left were the creak of the windmill and the hollow echo inside the feed bins. Everything he had built was fading. No wife, no kids, no company. Just silence and regret. He had 2 weeks left before the bank took the last section of land. The north field. It had the best soil. The only part of the ranch that might still be worth something. But he had no way to keep it. No money, no crops, no help. He had applied for loans, no one answered. He asked for work, no one had any. The town had dried up, same as the land. When Red Stover invited him to poker night, Eli said yes. Not to win, just to get out of the house. To be around voices. Even if they were laughing at him. Red ran the local feed store and everyone knew his poker games were brutal. Eli did not care. He had a few bills in his wallet. Figured he would play a few hands, lose, and walk home. It would be something to do. The game was already in full swing when he arrived. 5 men at the table, smoke in the air, whiskey bottles open. They barely looked up when Eli sat down. Red tossed him some chips and dealt him in. Eli played slow, careful. Folded early. Waited. Won a small hand, then lost 2 more. His stack shrank. The others did not talk much, just watched. Red had the biggest pile of chips and the calmest face. After an hour, Eli had nothing left but the deed. He pulled it from his coat, folded and stained. The last piece of his land. You sure you want to do that? Red asked. What am I saving it for? Eli said. Red grinned. All right then. They played 1 hand. Eli looked at his cards and saw nothing. No pair, no hope. He stayed in anyway. Red laid down a straight flush. It was over. Red took the deed and tapped it on the table. But then he paused. Tell you what he said. I got something for you. A trade. Eli looked up. What kind of trade? I got a bull, he said. Big bastard. Mean. Infertile. Eats like a furnace. Been trying to get rid of him for months. You take him off my hands, I give you this deed back. Eli blinked. What? Take the bull, Red said. Trailer is out back. You haul him home, he is yours. And this deed comes with him. Fair deal. Why would you do that? Eli asked. Red shrugged. Because I want to see what happens. Eli had no better options. He took the deal. Followed Red to the back lot. The bull was standing in a metal trailer. Huge, black, still. Not moving. He looked like he had been carved from stone. Eli climbed up and looked into his eyes. The bull stared back. Silent. He drove home slow. The old truck rattled. The trailer creaked. Eli kept looking in the rearview mirror. The bull never moved. Never blinked. When they reached the ranch, Eli backed the trailer near the barn and opened the gate. The bull stepped out with calm, heavy steps. No fight, no noise. Just walked into the pen like he already lived there. Eli stood outside the fence. Crossed his arms. Welcome home, he said. Guess we are both useless now. He fed him leftover hay. Gave him water. The bull ate quiet and steady. Did not look up once. Next morning, Eli found him standing at the far side of the pen. Head low. Staring at the east fence. He stood there for hours. Did not move. Just watched the field. Next day, same thing. On the 3rd day, Eli walked up to him. What are you looking at? The bull did not turn. Eli shook his head and went back to the house. But later that afternoon, he heard a loud bellow. Sharp and sudden. He dropped his wrench and ran outside. The bull was stomping the dirt near the fence. Snorting. Pawing. Eyes locked on the ground. Eli walked over fast. Looked down. Saw cracks in the soil. Thin but spreading. He backed up. By nightfall, the ground gave way. A sinkhole opened 6 feet wide. Deep and dark. Right where he had planned to move the hay trailer. If he had done that, it would have taken him with it. He stared at the bull. The bull stared back. You knew, Eli said. He did not sleep that night. Just sat on the porch watching the pen. Next day, he fixed the fence. gave the bull fresh hay. He looked at him different now. Gave him a name. Judas. Not because he was a traitor. Because he was unexpected. Something had changed. Eli did not know what yet. But he felt it. Judas was not just some useless bull anymore. He was something else. Eli started waking up before sunrise. Not because of habit. Because he wanted to see where Judas would go. The bull always did the same thing. Just before the light broke the sky, he would walk to the same stretch of fence near the east field and stare. He never made a sound. Never grazed. He just stood still. Looking. Eli brought out a mug of black coffee and stood by the fence one morning. Wind was cold. His boots were wet with dew. He leaned on the post and watched Judas. You waiting on something out there? The bull did not turn his head. Not even a twitch. Eli had never believed in signs. Not in God, not in fate, not in the kind of stories people tell over bonfires. But something about this bull kept him quiet. Made him pay attention. A week later, the second strange thing happened. Eli had gone to check the fence line. A winter storm was coming and he wanted to patch the loose boards before the wind rolled through. He had not taken more than 5 steps out when Judas let out another bellow. Sharp. Like the one before the sinkhole. Eli turned. The bull was facing the opposite side of the pen. Toward the ridge behind the barn. Ears high. Nostrils flared. Eli squinted. Walked to the gate. Looked out across the ridge. At first he saw nothing. Then he spotted it. A figure. Crouched low behind a pile of brush near the fence. Holding something. Eli ran inside. Grabbed his shotgun. Came back out yelling. Whoever it was took off. Sprinted toward the trees. Gone before Eli could get a good look. Later he found footprints and a gas can. Someone had planned to torch the old barn. He stared at the can. His breath fogging in the cold air. Then looked back at Judas. You saw him. Judas had gone back to standing still. Quiet as always. 2 events. 2 warnings. Eli was no longer doubting anything. He started keeping a notebook. Marking down every time Judas acted strange. Every noise, every movement. Patterns began to appear. Times of day. Direction he looked. Sounds he responded to. It was not random. One night Eli got drunk and walked out to the pen. Stared at the bull under a full moon. Who the hell are you? Judas did not blink. You are not normal. Silence. Eli leaned on the gate. Just so you know, if you turn into some demon or alien, I would appreciate a heads up. Judas lowered his head and walked to the water trough. Eli laughed to himself. Not because it was funny. Because he had not laughed in months. He felt crazy. But he also felt something else. Alive. Rumors started in town. Some ranch hand from 3 miles out came to buy feed from Red and mentioned a bull that saved a man from a sinkhole. Red just grinned. Said Eli had a special animal now. Cursed maybe. Or lucky. More people came. Not a lot. But enough to notice. They would park on the gravel road and point from a distance. Some got out and walked closer. Eli told them all the same thing. Not for sale. Someone offered him 1,000 in cash. Then 1,500. Then 2 grand. Eli shook his head. Judas is not a product. He was not looking for money. But he was starting to get ideas. One night Eli was sitting at his kitchen table staring at a flyer. It was crumpled and old but still legible. Underground bull racing. No rules. High risk. High reward. 5,000 to enter. Winner takes the pot. Word was the circuit was rough and fast. Bulls ran through makeshift tracks. Dirt lanes packed with noise and fire and chaos. Not a sport for ranchers. More like a spectacle for gamblers. He had found the flyer months ago and thrown it in a drawer. But now he was staring at it again. Judas was strong. Fast. Silent. He could read the ground like he had a map in his head. What if? Next day Eli walked the old pasture with a stopwatch. He built a rough track with rope and flags. Brought out a bucket and tapped it like a starting bell. Judas did not move. Eli tried again. Louder. Waved his arms. Nothing. He sighed and turned to leave. Judas charged. Not wild. Not violent. Smooth. Fast. Covered the makeshift track in under 8 seconds. then stopped at the end and turned. Eli checked the watch. No damn way. He reset. Tried again. Same result. He did it a third time, this time yelling go like a madman. Judas took off like he had been waiting for it. Eli stared at the bull, his chest tight. He might actually do this. He sold the generator, sold the last of his tools, called in every favor he had left. Barely scraped together the 5,000 entry fee. He knew it was a long shot, but it was the only shot he had left. And Judas was ready. Or maybe he always had been. The underground bull racing circuit was nothing like Eli expected. It was not held in arenas or rodeo grounds. It was set up in the dry valleys and burned-out stretches between forgotten highways. The crowd was rough. Oil field men, gamblers, drifters. Cash only. No questions asked. Eli showed up with Judas in a borrowed trailer, patched together with rope and prayers. The other bulls were monsters, big and wild. Some were scarred, some were drugged. Their handlers shouted and whipped them before the race. One even slammed a metal bar against the gate to make his bull mad. Judas stood calm. Not afraid, not tense, just quiet. Eli leaned against the trailer, heart racing. First place paid 50,000. More than enough to save the land and fix the ranch. Second place paid nothing. The track was a mile long, packed dirt with 2 hard turns and 1 brutal downhill. Riders were not allowed. Bulls ran solo. Once the gate opened, it was a straight sprint to the flags. Eli waited with the others. Men smoking, yelling, drinking. He was the only one not talking. Someone walked up behind him. He turned and saw Red Stover. Thought you would be here, Red said. Eli narrowed his eyes. What do you want? Same thing you want, Red said. To see what happens. He looked at Judas through the bars. That bull is different. You see it too. Eli did not answer. When the announcer called their heat, Eli walked Judas to the starting pen. The gate was rusted, barely holding together. The dirt was dry and loose. He stood in front of the bull. You do not owe me anything, he said. But if you have one more surprise in you, now is the time. Judas blinked once. The bell rang. The gate slammed open. The other bulls exploded forward like firecrackers. Dirt flew. Men screamed. It was chaos. Judas hesitated half a second. Then he ran. But not like the others. He did not charge blindly. He moved with precision. His steps were sharp and smooth. He cut inside the first turn without losing speed. His hooves barely touched the ground. Eli climbed the fence and ran alongside the track. Eyes wide, mouth open. Judas passed one bull, then another. By the halfway mark, he was neck and neck with the leader, a gray bull with blood on its horns. Eli shouted. Judas pulled ahead. The crowd noticed, started yelling. Not cheers, not boos, just noise. They had never seen anything like it. Final stretch. Judas was in front. 3 lengths, then 5. He crossed the finish line alone. Silence, then chaos. People shouting, running, waving cash. Men tried to argue, tried to protest. The officials shrugged. The timer was clear. Judas had won. Eli walked up to him, hand on his neck. You did it, he whispered. You crazy son of a bitch. He loaded him into the trailer. Drove home in silence. Heart pounding. He had 50,000 in a lockbox. No debt, no fear, no pity. He had a future again. Next morning he paid off the bank. Fixed the roof. Ordered new feed. Bought fresh hay. Opened the barn doors. Neighbors came around. People who had not spoken to him in years. They shook his hand. Said they heard the story. Heard the bull ran like wind. Some called it luck. Others called it a miracle. Eli called it payback. He entered more races. Not every week, just the big ones. Judas did not win all of them, but he placed in most. By summer, Eli had rebuilt the ranch. Bought back 200 acres. Even got electricity running through the old cabins. He was not rich, but he was alive again. One night he sat on the porch with a beer in hand and watched Judas graze under the moonlight. I do not know what you are or where you came from, he said, but I am glad you ended up in that game. Judas raised his head, stared across the fence. Next morning something changed. The pen was empty. Judas was gone. Eli panicked. Drove the property. Checked the roads. No sign. He followed hoofprints down to the riverbed. They stopped near the rocks. No blood, no trail. Just vanished. He spent the whole day searching. Nothing. Judas was gone like he had never existed. But the ranch remained. The land was green again. Eli sat on the porch that night in silence. And smiled. Judas was gone. No broken fence, no drag marks, no gate left open. He had simply walked away like he had never been there. Eli searched for 3 days. Checked every road trail and pasture. Asked neighbors. Asked old racing contacts. Nothing. He stood by the riverbed where the tracks stopped. Stared at the rocks. No blood. No fur. Just quiet. He was not just confused. He was angry. Not at Judas but at the silence he left behind. For weeks Eli could not sleep. Every creak in the barn, every gust of wind made him turn his head. He would open the front door at midnight hoping to see that black shape standing in the field. But nothing came. Life went on. The ranch was running. Bills were paid. The land was strong again. Eli had workers, cattle, money in the bank. But the silence felt different now. He stopped entering races. People came by asking where the bull went. Eli told them the truth. He walked away. They laughed. Thought it was a joke. No one believed a bull could just vanish. But the town had already changed their minds about a lot of things. One night Eli got a letter. No return address. Just a folded sheet of paper. Written in pencil were 5 words. You want to see him again. And below that, Friday midnight South Canyon Gate, bring no one. He read it 3 times. He did not hesitate. Friday came. Midnight hit. Eli drove down to South Canyon. Headlights off. He parked outside the old wooden gate that had not been used in years. The wind was strong. No moon. He waited. A shape stepped out from the trees. Not Judas. A man. Thin. Long coat. Face in shadow. You brought no one, the man said. Eli nodded. Who are you? The man ignored the question. The bull is not yours. He was a gift, Eli said. I earned him. No one earns him, the man said. He chooses. Where is he? The man pointed down the canyon. You want to know the truth, you walk. Eli looked at the trail. Then back at the man. You going to shoot me? No, the man said. But once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Eli walked. The trail wound down through sharp rock and dead brush. He walked for 10 minutes, then 20. The sound of the world changed. No crickets. No wind. Just his boots crunching dirt. He came to a clearing. And stopped. There were others. Bulls. Not in pens. Not wild. Standing still in a perfect circle. 10, maybe 12. Silent. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark. And in the center stood Judas. He looked unchanged. Strong. Still. Calm. Eli stepped forward. Judas looked at him. What is this? Eli whispered. They find people, the man said behind him. Not the other way around. They show up when you are at the end. They give you one last road. If you take it, you change. If you do not, they leave. Why me? Because you had nothing and still chose to stay alive. Eli stepped into the circle. Judas walked toward him. Stopped inches away. Eli put his hand on the bull's head. Thank you. Judas closed his eyes. The man stepped forward. You can leave now. But you need to decide who you are going to be when you get back. Eli looked around. These bulls. These creatures. They were not just animals. They were watchers. Helpers. And they had chosen him for a reason. He turned. Walked back up the trail. When he reached his truck, the letter was gone. So was the man. But he knew what he had seen was real. And he knew it was not the end. Eli did not sleep the night after the canyon. He sat on the porch until the sun cracked the sky open. The coffee in his mug went cold, but he did not notice. His boots were still dusty from the trail, the vision of those bulls still sharp in his mind. It was not a dream. He had seen something real, something beyond rules and logic. And Judas had looked him in the eye like a friend returning to say goodbye. But it did not feel like an ending. Felt like a beginning. He spent the morning fixing fence posts and moving hay bales, but his mind kept circling back. The man in the canyon had said something that stuck to him like barbed wire. Decide who you are going to be. For years Eli had been the man who held on just enough not to fall. Now he had a ranch again, clean boots, money in the bank, and a legend tied to his name. People in town whispered about the racing bull that vanished. Some said he had been stolen. Others said Eli had made it up to save face. But a few believed. Not just in the bull but in the change. One of the old-timers told him something at the feed store that he had not expected. You look taller these days, Eli. Like a man who finally buried his ghosts. He did not know what to say, so he tipped his hat and left. 2 weeks later a letter showed up in his mailbox. No return address. Just a red wax seal on the flap and one sentence inside. Your debt is not paid yet. South of the valley. Midnight. Alone. There was no signature. No instruction beyond that. Eli folded it twice and slid it into his jacket. He did not tell anyone. Not that he had many people to tell. He packed a satchel with water, a knife, a flashlight, and drove out after dark. The valley south of his land was rough country, barely traveled. A place full of dry riverbeds and whispering grass. He parked where the dirt road vanished and walked. It was cold. Not sharp but steady. The kind that climbed inside your jacket and stayed there. He did not see the figure until he was 10 feet away. Same man. Long coat. Still face. You came, the man said. Eli nodded. The man pointed west. The road is longer this time. You can still turn back. Eli shook his head. I already made my choice. The man stepped aside. Eli walked past him into the dark. No map. No lights. Just instinct. The stars were out, but they gave no comfort. Every few minutes he thought he heard hoofbeats behind him, but every time he turned there was nothing. Finally he reached a clearing. But this one was not like the first. There were no bulls. Only a man sitting on a stone. Older, gray-bearded, eyes sharp like broken glass. Eli stopped. The man looked up. You are the rancher. The one with the bull. Eli nodded once. Sit, the man said. Eli sat on the cold ground across from him. The man spoke slow. What you saw before was the invitation. What you do next is the work. Eli did not ask questions. He listened. The man explained there were others like him. Men and women who had once stood at the edge of ruin and been chosen. Not by luck. By something older. Something that found people when they had nothing left. The bulls were not gods or spirits. They were watchers. Protectors, messengers of change. Each one came for a reason, and once they left something behind. You were given a window, the man said. Now you have to keep it open. How? Eli asked. Use what you know. Teach others to listen. There are more broken men out there than you can count. Most will not be offered what you were, but some will be. And when they are, they need someone who has walked the road already. Eli stayed until sunrise. By the time he made it home, he knew what he had to do. He spent the next 3 months working harder than ever. Not for profit but for purpose. He fixed the old cabins, brought in young ranch hands looking for work, gave them meals and a place to sleep. Some stayed. Some left. All of them changed. He told them pieces of the story, never the full thing. Just enough to spark curiosity. He built a dirt ring in the south pasture. Trained 2 bulls from a rescue auction. Not racers, but steady animals. Reliable. He started letting the local kids come ride them bareback. Not for sport, for trust, for something to hold on to. One night he stood in the barn looking at a photograph. It was the only one he had of Judas, taken by accident by a tourist kid the week before the bull vanished. The photo was blurry, but the eyes were clear, sharp, aware. The wind outside shifted, and he heard it. One low bellow from across the ridge. Distant, but real. He walked outside. The stars were the same. The fields were quiet. He waited. And again. The bellow. One more time. Like a message. He did not chase it. He just stood there, smiling. The ranch had changed. And so had he. Strangers came to visit. Not tourists. Not reporters. People with tired eyes and shaking hands. People who had heard rumors. People looking for something they could not name. Eli never gave them answers. Just a chair, a warm meal, sometimes a bed for the night, sometimes a word, sometimes silence. But one by one they left lighter. And one by one they carried the story. Not the full story, just the part they needed. And so the legend grew. Not of the bull, not of the race, not of the canyon, but of a quiet ranch somewhere out west where broken things started to heal. And Eli was still there, boots on the porch, coffee in hand, waiting for the next knock on the door. Because once you are chosen, you do not get to stop. You just keep listening, and keep the road open for the next lost soul to find.